Jonas, a senior in high school, is having his one love affair with his classmate Nina, but everything changes when Elena, the new young German teacher, turns her world upside down. She recognizes and encourages his talent as a writer and uses the trust this creates to build an intimate relationship with him. But it turns out that her motives are very dark. It all begins when Jonas's grandmother, alone on the beach, sees a huge dog running towards her. She tries to escape, but the dog catches up with her and kills her. Afterwards, his funeral ceremony took place and his grandson Jonas was present with his grandfather. 4 months later, Jonas's parents spotted a car driven by a woman traveling at high speed, causing the death of Jonas's parents. The person closest to him was his girlfriend Nina, who now lives with his grandfather Friedrich. A year later, Jonas goes to school with his friends. They learn that there is a new teacher called Elena, because their previous teacher had an accident. At the end of the lesson, she tells the students that she needs help moving her things. Jonas, Nina and Florian volunteer to help and go to Elena's house. Then Nina stumbles into the warehouse and discovers that the teacher was in the same country as their former teacher, but she doesn't pay any attention. After they had left, Elena went into the warehouse and picked up a box she had hidden. Surprisingly, the box contains a large collection of photos of Jonas. She looks at the photos and burns them. The next day, at school, she asks them to write a poem and hand it in the following day. Nina can't manage to write the poem, so she asks Jonas for help. After returning the poem, Elena asks Jonas to speak to her alone, and she tells him that his writing style is so distinctive that she knows he wrote Nina's poem. She asked him to bring the rest of his poems home later so that she could evaluate them. He takes the book of poems back to his teacher and she changes in front of him as if she were trying to seduce him. Then she read her poems and pretended to be so moved that she started to cry. She then approaches him and starts kissing him. The next day, on the way to school, Jonas is afraid of what he has done, but she tells him that he is an adult and that what has happened between them is a miracle. At school, Nina notices a suspicious relationship between Jonas and the teacher because of Elena's behavior. After several days, a seminar is organized at the school. Friedrich tells the story of his fight against the government over the closure of the school. As he speaks, he spots Elena in the crowd and feels as if he recognizes her. He gets dizzy and falls to the ground. Jonas runs versus him to help her. Friedrich looks again but can't see Elena because she's gone. Nina noticed what happened between Friedrich and Elena after he left. Nina asks Jonas if Friedrich and Elena ever had a relationship because she suspects something happened before her grandfather passed out. But Jonas doesn't believe that Elena had anything to do with what happened to his grandfather. This makes Nina angry and she leaves. On the way out, she has the feeling that someone is watching her. Elena was waiting for Nina to leave. She enters the house and sleeps with Jonas. In the morning, she wakes up to get out of the house before anyone sees her, but Nina, who was hiding behind the car, has seen her. Then Jonas wakes up and goes to see his grandfather. He asks him if he knows Elena, but Elena denies knowing her. Then, in the school library, Nina rummages through photos of teachers from previous years. There she finds a girl who looks just like Elena, with the same haircut, called Maria. Suddenly, Elena arrives. Nina tells her that she knows their former German teacher was going to the same country as her. She tells her that she must have done something to the teacher to take her place and get closer to Jonas. Elena couldn't control her anger and attacks Nina, strangling and killing her. She suddenly hears Jonas's voice looking for Nina. She goes to him and asks why he was late for school. He replies that he stayed at his grandfather's to check on him and asks if she has seen Nina. She replies that she just left the library. She returns to the library and starts crying because of what she has just done. She then hides the body by wrapping it with a curtain and leaves the library after work, taking the body out through the back door of the school and putting it in her car. She also takes Nina Sweethausendien's bike, then dumps the body in a remote place and returns home. Later, Friedrich comes to her house, but she refuses to open the door for him, even though she knows he saw her through the window. At night, she prepares some narcotic pills and crushes them. Then, she receives a text from Jonas asking her to come and see him at his family's place. She goes to his house and he tells her that Nina has disappeared and he is worried about her. She tries to reassure him, 2010, and tells him that she might have disappeared because she loved him and was jealous. She will return to Mont after some time, driven by guilt. He tells her that what happened between them was wrong and should not have happened. Elena pretends to be upset and they spend the night together. The next day, his grandfather wakes him up and tells him the terrible news. Nina's body has been found by the sea. Friedrich couldn't handle the shock of the news and fainted. He has a heart attack and is taken to the hospital. The doctor asks Jonas to leave as well and rest, but he continues to cry because he is sad about losing his friend and doesn't believe she drowned. He is rather convinced that someone killed her. He starts looking for the last place where Nina was. He searches the library. He finds the register of former teachers of the school, but he discovers that a page has been torn out from inside the book. They then turn to the school's computer to see the entire school staff. At the same time, Elena visits Frederic in the hospital. She enters his room and he recognizes her immediately. She tells him that she must remind him of Maria. When he sees her, it's because Maria was his mother. She tells him that she was with her mother when she went to meet him. She remembers that day well, even though she was only 4 years old. She was waiting for her mother to return, Usend, but police cars approached the place and found her mother's body in the sea. Since that day, she decided to take revenge on him by killing his entire family. It is also discovered that she was behind the death of his wife, killed by the dog, and that she also caused the death of Jonas's parents. She only has Jonas left to deal with. He is looking for Elena, but doesn't find her at her house. He returns to his grandfather's and sleeps. The next morning, he is woken up by Elena's voice telling him to open the door. She tells him that she spoke to the hospital administration so that his grandfather could receive medical care at home instead of at the hospital. He asks to speak to her alone and tells her that he knows his mother, Maria, worked at the school. He wants to know what the relationship was between his grandfather and her. He receives a call from his friend Flo. She asks him to answer the call. She goes to make coffee and tell him everything. She makes the coffee and puts powdered drugs in it. Then she places Frederic's bed in front of the window so he can see what is going to happen to his grandson. She gives him the coffee and he drinks it. Then she starts to tell him that his mother loved this town very much and was in love with Frederic. They got together and brought her into the world, which means that Elena is Jonas's aunt, but from another mother. She then tells him that his grandfather killed his mother because she had asked him to acknowledge his daughter Elena, but he decided to kill her. Suddenly, Jonas feels dizzy and falls to the ground. His grandfather was watching what was happening. He had convulsions and fell to the ground as well. She then drags Jonas to the pool and starts to drown him, but he resists and gets out of the pool. He hits her and runs quickly. Versus at the house, he finds his grandfather lying on the floor. Elena attacks him and tries to strangle him, but he grabs a piece of glass and kills Elena with it. In Friedrich's hand, there was a letter from Maria. In this letter, she tells him that she is going to end her life. After that, Jonas decides to leave the town forever. Why?